everyone around the world who speaks Turkish were all concentrated and waiting for the election, whether you're in the opposition side or on the incumbent side. And now we are just in that interim period, which is still not clear what is going to happen.
How do you feel about the opposition leader Kemal Kilicdaroglu, who's united 6 different parties in his alliance and his bid to become the new president of Turkey?
Kilicdaroglu promised a more pluralistic republic, while Erdogan crafted a populist narrative of being a global leader. First of all, it was an unequal election, right? With the government leveraging all state resources against the limited opposition. In a way, it is remarkable because it demonstrates that Erdogan is not supported by more than 50% of the population at the moment. One thing we've seen with these elections is the rise of nationalism on a more race-based nationalism, which is also kind of dangerous. But people are hopeful. They didn't give up. They're working for the second round altogether.
Are you concerned as a political refugee to see attitudes in Turkey towards refugees take potentially a negative turn?
There's a big issue in Turkey about asylum seekers and immigrants. There are more than 4 million, as far as I remember, please fact check, but 4 million Syrian refugees in Turkey, and Turkey hosts the most number of Syrian refugees in the world. And obviously this has been an ongoing debate in politics in Turkey for a very long time. Blaming a refugee for being a refugee it's an oxymoron. It is, these refugees are not refugees because of themselves. They didn't want to be refugees. No one wants to be a refugee. This is when the economy is really bad and when things are not going well, you need an enemy and you need a scapegoat. And refugees or progressive people or LGBTQ community, all the others who are a little bit different than the rest, immediately becomes a scapegoat. This is the same thing that's happening in Britain, but it's happening in Turkey in an extensive way.
In Turkey, there's a lot of dissatisfaction about how President Erdogan has handled the crisis around the earthquake. What do you want to see happen in terms of how the Turkish government looks after and supports victims?
It deserves an hour-long answer, but I'll try to summarize. When it came to the earthquake, the rage and anger in Turkey was greater than grief. Buildings that went down were built after 2001, where the new regulations, the earthquake regulations, came into place. This is just mind-boggling. These regulations were made, just to prevent these buildings coming down. And since 2002, this government is in charge. So all those buildings shouldn't have collapsed. If it collapsed, it is not just because of the contractors, it is the whole system. So we need to start from there. This shouldn't have happened. Earthquakes are natural disasters, but the consequences doesn't have to be.
Kilicdaroglu's team have suggested that there were some irregularities at the ballot box. Do you think that that's credible as a concern?
When you lost trust in the system, everything starts to crumble. And because you can't trust the system, now we don't know whether it is an electoral fraud, whether they did start with the ballot boxes, or whether this is the real result. And we'll never know. We do not trust the judiciary. We do not trust the election system. So this loss of trust also affects how you manage elections as well. And then at some point, elections become, in a way, suspicious. So literally, I can't answer this question because I don't know. It looks like there has been some irregularities somewhere, which feels like fraud, but we don't have enough data and evidence to say there was fraud or there wasn't. And that is the problem with Turkey.
If Kilicdaroglu were to win the election, would you then have more trust in the electoral systems in Turkey?
That will take time. That will take time. This is the damage that has been caused over the last 21 years. We, the broader international community, needs to kind of help rebuild Turkey into a democratic, social state where trust is reassured. We need to find a way to re-establish justice, the feeling of justice. Feeling of justice is as important as justice itself. If you lose the feeling of justice, then there's nothing.
If Kilicdaroglu were to be elected, would you feel like it might be possible one day to return home?
It will obviously depend on the situation. First of all, the trial that we're all in, Gezi Park trials, this bogus trial the trial itself needs to be tried, but I'm leaving that aside. But at least it needs to just vanish, and that's the only way then I can go back. But before me, there are my friends who are in jail at the moment, 7 of them, and one of them, by the way, has been elected as the MP from Hatay, which had the worst, which saw the worst consequences of the earthquake. So he's elected. So that's one of the good news about the parliamentary elections. But first, our friends needs to be free, and obviously I would like to be able to go back. But again, my priority at the moment is not me going back, but having our friends who are being held as, in a way, captives to be set free.